Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whoever you are, wherever you are, whenever it is for you. For me, it is just past midnight, Thursday, August the 15th, 2024. This is the news for Wednesday, August 14th, day 904 of Vladimir Putin's war of aggression against the people of Ukraine. And I see the peeps are coming in. Hey, Darlene. Up. Hey, Marilyn. You guys are just in time for tonight's air raid. Hey, Pugga Mahone. Hey, Big Hawk. Hey, Joey the Lips. How's everybody doing tonight? Hey, Trash Hunter. Buenas noches. Hey, Rob Walker. Hey, Alex. Hey, Birdie. Any idea where the air raids are targeting? Well, it's targeting Kyiv. Thanks, Marilyn. Because we're under air raid alert. So one can assume that there are incoming missiles and drones right now. You found a lot of trash on the... I wondered about your name. Are you really are you out there on the beach every day with a metal detector or what, Trash Hunter? I did wonder about that. Shh. He found a bunch of orcs on the beach. Okay. So, ladies and gentlemen, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whoever you are, wherever you are. This is the news for Wednesday, August the 14th, 2024, day 904 of Vladimir Putin's war of aggression against the people of Ukraine. You can literally hear the terror campaign of the Russians screeching in the background right now. The air raid alert is being sounded here in Kyiv. That means it's being sounded all over Ukraine. On average, when the Russians send their missiles and their drones on these overnight raids, they target at least 8 oblasts in the country. So Kyiv will be targeted, Odessa will be targeted, Mykolaiv will be targeted, Sumy region will be targeted, etc. I want to begin this evening. Now, of course, the big news that we're all following, and we're all following closely, is the Kursk incursion, or the Kurskursion, as some people are starting to call it. Now, I want to start by saying to all the naysayers out there, all the people who are second-guessing Ukraine in this, all the people who are saying that this is the end of Ukraine, I say bullshit. I say bullshit. I'm going to argue that the Kursk incursion is a huge success already. And here's why. It has changed the entire narrative of this war. We have seen, now you think about it. You think about Putin in that National Security Council meeting this week. You've seen Putin on the TV. You've seen him spit. You've seen him snarl. You've seen him shout. You've seen him snap. You've seen him curse and threaten and rant and rage. He wasn't doing any of that the other day, was he? No, he was a nervous little man with too much Botox. His leg nervously twitching, his hands twitching. He doesn't know what to do. And the reality is that he has expended his forces and his weapons in Ukraine, and he cannot now defend Russia. This incursion into Russia changes the entire narrative for the whole world. It shows the world and all of Russia's enemies that their border is porous and undefended and weak, even when it's up against a country that they've poured over 1 million troops into over the last 2.5 years. Not only that, it forces Moscow to reassess the cost that it is paying for this continued violence and how willing it is to pay those costs. Not only that, it forces Ukraine's allies to reassess what Ukraine is capable of. Who among us is not standing in awe of this audacious move, of this bold strike against the aggressor nation. We are all absolutely in awe of it. I can't speak to you guys in the United States or in other countries, but I can promise you that here in Ukraine, this invasion of Russia has led to the biggest morale boost that I have seen in this country in months and months and months. Nothing like this has happened before. It is a stunning win. Not only all of that, I want to highlight for everybody, the Western allies appear not to have been informed of this attack coming. Everybody seems to have been caught unawares by this incursion into Russia. And you know what we didn't see from the Western allies? We didn't see any panic. We didn't see anybody going, oh my God, that's going to be it. They're going to nuke London now. They're going to nuke Paris now. They're going to nuke Berlin now. Bullshit. Putin isn't suicidal, and neither are the Russians under him. What the invasion of Russia demonstrates is that Russia's red line, the nuclear threat, is all a bunch of empty saber rattling and bluff, just like I knew it was back in March of 2022. Do you remember back in March of 2022, Putin goes on the TV and he says, I will use nukes and I am not bluffing. Bullshit. What's more likely? That the guy is going to end the Russian Empire after 800 years by using nukes and bringing the wrath of the world down on his head? Or that a guy who says he's not bluffing is bluffing? You know as well as I do. The guy who says he's not bluffing is full of shit. That's why he's still talking, not doing. So I want to say, no matter what happens in terms of the long-term military implications of this event, in the short term at least, it is a huge success. It is a huge win. It has wrenched Ukraine from the back pages and splashed them on the front page of every newspaper again. Ukraine is once again in the forefront of people's minds, where it belongs, because it's the most important thing happening on the planet right now. And the outcome of this conflict will determine, will influence the lives of hundreds of millions of people for the next 3 generations, at least. This is huge. Now, where are we at? Well, satellite imagery shows the Russians are digging trenches. Now dig it. Remember, I'm a big fan of the Dominic Nichols theory. Dominic Nichols, who's a former tank commander for the British Royal Services, and who is a reporter for the Telegraph, the London Telegraph. He suggested that what the Ukrainians are trying to do is straighten out the front line, that there are these comma-shaped areas of Russia that extend into Ukraine. And if they can just straighten out that front line, they'll be protected from the east and west by Ukraine, so no flank attacks. It'll just be a nice straight front line. And it appears that the Russians believe that that's what's happening too. And the reason I say that is because where they're building their defensive fortifications. They're not building the defensive fortifications right up against where the Ukrainians are now. They're building them back along the E38 highway. That's the highway that runs from Rilsk to Kursk. And it's about 50 kilometers north of Sudza. So it's deep into Russia. And it's where they're building those fortifications is just about where the Ukrainians would have to get to straighten out that front line. And so it'll be interesting to see how that all plays out. Sersky said today that Ukrainian forces in Sudza have finished mop-up operations. Sudza is firmly in Ukrainian control, and in the clearing of the city over the last 48 hours, 100 prisoners of war have been captured. Now, that's just in Sudza. The number that's being bandied about the most right now is 1,000 prisoners have been taken. But I think that it's closer to 2,000 based on some of the reports that I've seen. And I just saw one guy who claimed that it's now up to 3,000. So they've got somewhere between 1,000 and 3,000 prisoners of war out of this. Zelensky commented on this. He said that one of the purposes of this operation is to grow the exchange fund. And he said it was to accelerate the return of our POWs. Now, when he said the exchange fund, and then he said that about the POWs, it's clear, I think, that they want to trade POWs, right? They want to get, because we know how POWs are treated by the Russians. We know that who they're capturing right now are the young kids, the conscripts, the children of the, I guess there's no Politburo anymore, but the children of the Duma, right, in St. Petersburg and Moscow, who are doing their annual or their 1-year military service after high school. That's who they're capturing, because that's who's inside. That's also who they're pulling down from Murmansk and Kaliningrad. So the ISW is reporting that troops are being moved out of Donetsk, and that has been confirmed by the U.S. military. There are other reports, as I said last night, that the RU is moving reserves from Kharkiv, Kherson, and Zaporizhia. Now today we're getting reports that they're moving troops from Murmansk and Kaliningrad as well. So they seem to be drawing reserves from every possible location. Now, from what I understand, who's on duty in Murmansk and Kaliningrad? Who's available to move? Because Kaliningrad's mostly been emptied already of troops and equipment. Certainly anybody with any experience. And so these are likely to be more conscripts, more 18, 19-year-old kids with no real training, no real experience, that are going to be anxious to surrender rather than die. Having those kids in Ukraine's pocket to trade for Ukrainian POWs will not only, right, getting them off the battlefield will not only preserve their lives, but more importantly, it will free Ukrainian POWs from the clutch, from the gentle mercies of the Russian clutches that they are currently being held in, and get them home. A free press returned to Russia today with a bunch of Ukrainian TV reporters taking over the TV station in Sudza and beginning a free Ukrainian broadcast into Russia. Actual news for the Russians who have been starved of information by their lying kleptocratic rulers. First time they get to see something that resembles the truth. Russia is also pulling equipment from Belarus. So the equipment shortages seem to continue. And I think this is fabulous because not only is Russia demilitarizing itself, Russia is now in the process of demilitarizing Belarus, which will make the revolution coming to Belarus all the easier for the folks in Belarus. The governor of Belgorod has requested a federal state of emergency to be declared. He's declared one in the oblast. But a federal state of emergency is an official act by the Kremlin where the Kremlin sends in resources to the oblast from anywhere in the Russian Federation that it determines help is needed, right? And so what we have not yet seen is we have not seen Putin get on board and declare a federal emergency in Belgorod, only in Kursk. It looks to me like he's trying to avoid the image in the public mind of this thing expanding. But there's no way he's going to be able to keep that from people. Even now, you've got 200,000 people displaced, and the entire border along Belgorod with Ukraine is being emptied. Everybody's being evacuated from there. Putin made the claim today that signups for the military, those signing contracts, have doubled. There was an interview I saw with a recruiting sergeant or recruiting agent for the Russian military in a conscription office in Moscow. He said that on average they've had between 6 and 7 kids coming in a day, signing contracts. He said that has shot up to 12 to 15 a day. So legitimately double, right? And then there's hundreds of these offices around the country. There is this concern, doubled from 4 to 2, says Big Al. Yeah, dude. Now, look, you got to take this all with a grain of salt. This is what the Russians are saying, right? But it's not unlikely, I don't think, that some folks inside of Russia are going to see this attack, and Putin is certainly going to play it that way, that everything he's been saying all along is right, that the West is out to destroy Russia. Now the West has sent NATO troops into Russia, and they are attempting to destabilize and destroy Russia. And that's going to appeal to the patriotism of lots of young Russian men. There are going to be those who are going to say, oh, Putin was right all along. The West is coming to destroy us. We have to defend the fatherland. And there are going to be a bunch of volunteers from that. I think that that's normal and natural when you live in a world where you have to believe the things you have to believe to be a Russian. What these people believe and how it is saturated in the press is unreal. Unreal. Now, we know, right, and everybody knows that the Finns have traditionally been a neutral state, right? They didn't join the Warsaw Pact. They didn't join NATO. They stayed neutral. And that made them an important nation for negotiations and peace deals throughout history for the last couple hundred years. The Helsinki Accords, signed in Helsinki, right? The press conference with Putin and Trump, where we saw Trump debase himself to Putin over a soccer ball. I can't imagine why it would be Russia. We've seen Helsinki play an important part in these negotiations for 500 years. Well, the foreign minister said today that if Trump is reelected, Helsinki will not host a peace conference between Trump and Putin. And the reason that he gave is essentially that Trump is going to sell out Ukraine to Putin, and we will have no part of it. And so not only has Finland joined NATO, but they are standing strongly and clearly with the Ukrainians. And I thought that was, again, on the subject of the win, right? How this thing in Kursk is a win. Everybody has found newfound admiration for the Ukrainians. Everybody is in awe of this move. And I'll tell you something. I want to disagree because you guys know I try to report facts and I try to listen to the experts. And one of the things that I notice about the experts in this thing is they are all poo-pooing the notion that Ukraine can hold on to this Russian land for any period of time. Everybody is convinced that the Russians are going to show up in force. Putin is going to level the place and drive the Ukrainians out. And that could well be what's going to happen. Could well be. I don't know. But I don't think so. I really don't think so. You look at the advances that the Ukrainians have made and they are still on the move. You look at where they're digging their emplacements, their trenches. You look at where the Russians are digging their trenches. It's going to take a month to get the front line established. Then there's going to have to be a month of fighting to see who can move whom. You know where we are then? We're into the mud season. And guess what? Around these parts, in the mud season, you can't move your own shit, let alone move somebody else. So the timing of this, in my opinion, and this is strictly the opinion of an amateur who doesn't know shit about shit, but the timing of this seems to be, in my opinion, directed toward getting the Ukrainians to be able to hang in until the weather means the Russians can't move on them anymore. That could be what's happening. We don't know. We don't know. Nobody knows the future. And prognostication is a sucker's game. So I don't like to engage in it too much. But I think that just like when all the experts said that Kyiv was going to fall in 3 days, that it was going to be over in a week, I think they're wrong about this. I think they're underestimating the Ukrainians again, and they are overestimating the Russians again. November is coming too, and the American election, no doubt, as I have said before, look, the outcome of this war, as hard as the Ukrainians fight, as dedicated as they are to their own independence and to winning this thing, they cannot do it alone. The real outcome, the final outcome, the decisive outcome of this thing depends on the political will of the West to support the Ukrainians through it. I think that's just a fact. And so we got to get off our asses. And we got to say, you guys heard the air raid siren a minute ago. There are missiles and drones headed here right now that are powered by electronic components manufactured in the West, that are avoiding our sanctions routines, that we can't seem to keep out of the hands of the Russians. Now, given that our own technology is being used against this ally, and we can't seem to control it, why are we tying the Ukrainians' hands behind their backs and keeping them from using the long-range weapons that we've donated to them on the very targets inside of Russia that are launching these drones and bombs? Why? Why? Now, for their part, the Ukrainians are not waiting for us to get off our asses. The Ukrainians are doing exactly the right thing. Last night, they sent a massive, massive drone attack against 3 air bases inside of Russia. 2 in the Voronezh district, 1 up in the Nimzy, up just east of Russia, just east of Moscow. We don't know how many planes were damaged or destroyed. We don't know that. But we do know that Russia claims that it shot down 110 drones last night. We don't know how many got through. We don't know how many were really sent. But the Russians are claiming they shot down 110 drones last night, 37 over the Voronezh region alone, where 2 of the targeted air bases were. There were lots of video online today of big fires in these places. And these air bases are where the glide bombs and missiles carrying planes are stored, as well as the ammunition that they use, right? So there's glide bomb warehouses there, missile storage there, and secured bunkers, etc. Kyiv is assessing the damage. They have not yet told us or made any claims about planes being knocked out on the ground or anything like that. We just know that this massive drone attack happened last night. This is on the heels, well, of two things. Ukraine did shoot down another Su-34 yesterday. So for those of you playing aerospace bingo, that's one more Su-34 off the playing field. Now, it is important to note, Russia only had 63 of these things at the beginning of the war. This is now the 35th Su-34 lost. The 35th lost either to the Ukrainians, to an accident, or to friendly fire. How many can they have left? And this shootdown comes right on the heels of yesterday, the Russian aerospace forces releasing photographs of Su-24s that had been modified to carry glide bombs. And they were kind of touting it as an innovation, right? All the analysts are saying that the reason they're being forced to adapt those Su-24s for the glide bombs is because they're running out of Su-34s. They're running out of them. And that seems to be confirmed. Now, on the Ukrainian side, the Kursk incursion is not without loss. And so we should talk about, at this time, the loss of a Ukrainian MiG-29 2 days ago, piloted by Alexandra Mihalia, 27, of the 40th Aviation Brigade. The pilot was lost. And so our deepest sympathies and kind regards go out to the family of Alex Mihalia. May he enjoy eternal flight. The International Institute for Strategic Studies, the IISS, reports that Russia can't maintain its conscription needs and cites a new law from the Duma that grants immunity to those who have been arrested on criminal charges and are awaiting trial to have their record expunged if they sign a military contract. So this is like a replay of the Wagner thing. Now that they've emptied the jails and they've forced everybody out of the jails that they could into Ukraine, they're now going after those that are awaiting trial, those who are not yet convicted. You know what's going to happen? A lot more people are going to start to get arrested. That's what's going to happen. And they're going to be threatened with long prison sentences or sign up and go to Ukraine. Putin's paranoia is increasing. There's no two ways about that. Putin's paranoia is on the rise. Police roadblocks, backed by special operation forces, have appeared all around Moscow, and new air defenses have been moved into the city proper. It appears, look, Putin's completely incompetent. Everything that he does backfires, and I really think this could be the end of him. When we think about the way that he let the men on the Kursk submarine die 24 years ago, right? August 12th, 2000, Putin is in office for the first time for about 4 months. The Kursk submarine sinks. He refuses all international help to try to rescue those men because he doesn't want to look weak. And all 118 men on that sub died. Now here we are 24 years later, and he doubles down on everything, no matter the setback. And the resources of Russia are not infinite. They will not last forever. He is using them up at a breakneck speed. Soon there will be nothing left in the tank storage yards but the rusted out hulks of T-34s and T-54s. That's all that's going to be left soon. He doubles down. He's doubling down in Kursk, and he's fucking it up. Calling in conscripts, FSB, mercenaries, border guards, Russian regular troops, penal battalions, with no coherent command, control, and communications. The Ukrainians have already cut the ground lines of communication. The guys in Vovchansk are essentially cut off from resupply at this juncture, except from the south. But that's a long way out of the way and not where the shit comes from that they need. Luhansk is affected by this cut of the rail line. No, I don't see any of this going well for him. And I think we could well be living in a world where when the textbooks record the life and lies of Vladimir Putin, they start with the Kursk disaster, the submarine disaster that set the tone for his whole administration, and they end with the Kursk Oblast disaster that ended the reign of this genocidal lunatic. Let's hope so anyway. The front lines remain difficult, very difficult. Now I'm talking about not Kursk, but the 1,000 kilometers of front line in Ukraine. They remain very difficult. Despite the fact that reserves are being pulled all up and down the line, there is a grinding attritional battle still going on, lots of them. And the front line remains mostly stable, but there are minor gains on both sides, with the Ukrainians taking back some positions in the Seversk and western Zaporizhia directions, while the Russians gain some ground around Chasiv Yar. In international news, the water supply at 2 German military bases was sabotaged and poisoned today. There is 1 person in custody. We don't yet know what allegedly the motivation was here or who was behind it, but I think given the nature of the Russian hybrid sabotage warfare that we're seeing on European soil, I'm going to be very unsurprised if it turns out that the saboteur was either a Russian or hired by the Russians, the FSB, to poison the water at these military bases. Now, when we say poison the water, we haven't had a good description of what that means. I don't know if the water is actually fatal to drink, or it just makes you sick, or what is happening there. And in fact, the Germans have been pretty tight-lipped about the whole thing too, which is why you may not have heard of it. But that is a thing, and we'll see what happens. In other international news, Germany has posted a warrant to the Polish government for the arrest of someone with the name of Volodymyr Z. Now, I think we can assume that Volodymyr Z is not President Zelensky. However, who this guy is, it is claimed he is a Ukrainian diver who was on a luxury yacht, a Ukrainian luxury yacht, around the time of the Nord Stream 2 bombing. So we know that the Nord Stream gas pipelines under the Baltic Sea were blown up. It appears now that the Germans believe that it was the Ukrainians who did it, and they have issued arrest warrants for the individuals that they believe are responsible. But isn't that considered an attack on a NATO country, though? You know, Nicola, I mean, you're not wrong. The infrastructure belonged to Germany, right? And that's, I'm sure, why they want to prosecute this guy. However, are they going to turn it into an international incident where they go to war against Ukraine? By all accounts, they're not accusing the Ukrainian government of doing this. They're accusing an individual Ukrainian citizen of carrying out this plot. So that's not going to happen. Hey, PH. I want to congratulate the people of Ukraine and their Olympic team. They walked away from the Olympics with 3 gold, 5 silver, and 4 bronze medals. They placed number 21 out of 84 countries. Well done, Ukraine. And that's in the middle of all this. Their best athletes are on the front line right now defending this nation. That's not even a joke. There's lots of guys who gave up their Olympic dreams to go and fight for Ukraine. So well done, Ukraine. A couple of things on a lighter note here to finish up the official top line stories. I must have had 24 people today send me the video of the Yelp reviews of Kursk restaurants. I mean, hysterical, right? We need a table for 2,000. We'll be there tomorrow. We need lots of parking for our tanks. Good food, good service, but no parking for my tank. I mean, the Ukrainians have a wonderful sense of humor. And the idea that they are posting these bogus troll reviews of restaurants and other things now, dry cleaners, car washes have appeared. A paint store has been reviewed. And the car wash for strikers, exactly, Dark Irish, you're right. I think you sent me that one. So great stuff from the Ukrainians, of course. The Russians, for their part, are showing the typical concern that they have for their own people. And they are relocating all of the Kursk and Belgorod refugees to Zaporizhia. This is not a joke. The governor of the Kursk Oblast has announced that they are moving the displaced people of the oblast to the war zone of Zaporizhia, out of the frying pan and into the fire, from one front line to another front line, where the people don't know the area. I mean, you literally cannot make this shit up. Morale here is definitely way up, Bobby. Way up. Okay. From one war zone, it's incredibly stupid, PT. I mean, you can't even. See, now Fitz hits it on the head. He says you can't move them into Russia, then the word would get out. Exactly, Fitz. Exactly. Okay. So, guys, just before we go to Q&A, that's my top line news for today and my top line opinions. A lot of opinion today. I want to thank F and Hell. Is F and Hell here? Hey, Harkonnen. So I want to thank F and Hell, who is the sponsor of tonight's live. Dr. David Hayes will be on tomorrow. Will be our sponsor tomorrow. And the doc wants to come on and talk to us about some things. So I'm going to talk to him about how we can do that or what that might look like. If anybody has any thoughts on what you'd like to hear from Dr. David Hayes, if he comes on the show, let me know. Thanks, Robbo. No worries, Paul. No worries. Guys, you know, sponsorships of the live are available. I just ask that you PayPal $50 or more, and you get a live sponsorship. Now, right now, I'm also offering another option to get a live sponsorship. Where's my comment button here? If you guys know I do a lot of work, not a lot of work, not anymore, not as much as I was a year ago, but I do some work for Zampotech Foundation, which is a foundation here that brings tires to the frontline vehicles and provides vehicles, right? Just like our buddy David Frazier does here, Zampotech gets vehicles to the front line. Currently, they have 2 armored Humvees that they are trying to finish up. and get out to the front line. Thank you, whoever pinned that for me. Thank you. That is the PayPal for Zampotech, for their fundraiser to recondition these Humvees. They're almost done, guys. I think they only need like $2,000 more to get both Humvees out to the front line. And if anybody donates $50 or more to this and sends me the receipt, you will get a live sponsorship, right? My rent is paid. I have some food in the refrigerator, a little bit of money in my pocket. I'm not in trouble right now. Thank God. It does make for a nice change. So if anybody donates $50 or more to Zampotech, send me the receipt. Just DM me right here, and I will make sure that you get a live sponsorship. Tonight, that goes to Effin Hell. So if anybody sees Effin Hell around, thank him for his sponsorship. Low maintenance. I'm cheap, but I'm not easy, Bobby. Cheap, but not easy. Well, Arnie, it's a real problem. I'll tell you. I've got it. I finally got it. I finally got a Ukrainian bank account that works. Alleluia. Hallelujah. Thank you, Jesus. So again, don't send any money to me for the Humvees. Just PayPal it to Zampotech at nf.net.ua and then send me the receipt and you will get a sponsorship. Okay. I thought I saw something there that I wanted to respond to. Nice effing job, effing hell. So, Paul, I appreciate all of your support here at the channel. And don't worry about it, man. Whenever you can, that'd be great. Hey, Dawn. Bobby wants a mug. I don't sell merch, dude. What are you talking about? You want a mug? I don't sell merch. But we'll see about getting you a mug when I'm in San Diego, Bobby. Yeah, you're not wrong, Vanetta. I don't have time to get involved. I don't have time for that. Start with pottery, hand-thrown pottery. I will start making my own mugs here. I'll get myself a wheel. I'll get myself an oven. And I'll start throwing my own mugs. Sure. There's Dave Hayes. Hey, Dave, how you doing? Check out Boston Brian. Yeah, there you go, Annette. Thank you. Hey, everybody. If you want merch that benefits Ukraine 24, check out at Boston Brian. I love that guy. Your mug on your mug. I would never do that to anybody. Who's going to want to drink coffee with my face staring at them from the ceramic every morning? No, I'd probably put like in bright letters like, give me a minute, or some shit like that. Some wine glasses would be nice. You actually designed a Give Me a Minute t-shirt. Well, Paul, email me the rendering, would you? When will the army start changing street names in Orkistan to Ukrainian names? Well, they're already doing it with town names, right? We've seen lots of video and pictures of them Ukrainianizing the Russian town names on road signs. So that's a thing that's happening. Street names, I don't know. Some people are saying that they've already started on street names. Now, look, that kind of thing is funny, it's trolling, it's clever. Ukraine has said they do not want this land. They've pointedly now, two officials, Zelensky and I want to say Kuleba, I don't know who the other one was, but two people have said that they're not interested in holding this land. That if anything, having this land serves as something to trade for Ukrainian ground. Personally, I'm of the opinion that the Russians are doing exactly what the Ukrainians want them to do. They're hollowing out their own front line to defend the motherland. They're overreacting. They're pulling troops from everywhere because of this apparent existential threat to Russia. They are in a panic. And those troops are not well coordinated. They don't have any experience working together. There's no unit cohesion. There's no clear command and control. That's going to be a problem. And that's why we saw the friendly fire incidences that I reported on yesterday. There's going to be more of that as they all kind of merge in Kursk there. And what's the net effect going to be on the front line? Well, frontline forward operations are going to have to slow down because there won't be the reserves there to back them up. They're going to hollow out the front line and then they're going to hit it. And where last summer we thought we'd see the land bridge to Crimea cut and the siege of Crimea begin in earnest, I think we're going to see it this year. It's going to happen this year, maybe in the next few weeks. Let's hope so. Let's hope so. Well, thank you, Robbo. Trash Hunter asks a very interesting question. He says, are any POWs switching sides to Ukraine to fight? That's not what will happen, Trash Hunter. It won't be that they'll go to fight for Ukraine. But I will bet you that that maybe the reason we're not seeing the Freedom of Russia Legion and the Russian Volunteer Corps and the Siberian Brigades, maybe the reason we're not seeing them up front in this attack is because they're in the rear processing POWs. Talking to POWs, Russian to Russian, trying to convince them to come over to the Volunteer Corps and fight against the Kremlin. If that is true, and they have any success, we could see the ranks of the Freedom of Russia Legion swell over the next couple of weeks. Yeah, I know Avarosis. I don't, I don't go into lives. I just don't. But I know the work of John Avarosis. He's phenomenal, of course. Hey, Ballerina. Do you know Yulia as well? I do not know Yulia personally. I'm aware of her work. She has a great following. She's a real professional. And of course, she's Ukrainian. I don't know who Scott is, but Joey Contino is great as well. Gio Husar is also great. There are two Yulias. You're right, Annette. I know, I'm aware of both of them. The one I've spoken to the one that's out in Klemensky. The one who spells Yulia funny is in Kyiv, and then the one who spells Yulia like Yulia is out in Klemensky, if I'm not mistaken. Oh, CP Scott is great. CP Scott is great. It's funny you say that about us creators hanging out together, because we did a year ago. Silicon Curtain, who is a guy by the name of Jonathan. Oh, shoot, I'm not going to be able to think of his last name right now. But he's a British guy, Jonathan, and he's super professional, smart, insightful, funny, pleasant to listen to. If you don't follow him on YouTube, it's Silicon Curtain. And Silicon Curtain, along with some other Ukrainian content creators, held a conference, a Ukrainian creators conference in Lviv last year. And I was very fortunate to go. A friend of the channel by the name of Ricky Balbo sponsored my participation in that concert, or in that conference. And it was a really insightful day and a good introduction, because at that point I had only been creating Ukraine content for 2 months. I was totally brand new to all of this. And so it was a great baptism for me. Hey, Brock Smith, how you doing? Silicon Curtain, Annette. Silicon Curtain. Green as anything. I'm still green, Dark Irish, in so many ways. Will the Ukrainians use the Russian rail lines, or are they using trains at all for movements? Ukraine is heavily dependent on its own rail infrastructure. Yes. Silicon Curtain, Annette, correct. Corey.ua is also affiliated with the gays as well. Yep, and I know Corey. I was a guest on his podcast. You can find that video on the gays YouTube channel. Hey, Chef Deb. Hey, Lars, how you doing? That's Lars from Encino Tech, not our buddy Lars. Our buddy Lars, I want to thank, as always, for all of his continued support. And he's got the Discord server and the Alexievich archive, which I appreciate. I also want to thank Nightshade, who has the Peter's Peeps group on the Book of Faces. Let's not forget our sponsor for tonight, F and Hell. If you see F and Hell around, thank him, please. Tomorrow night, our sponsor is going to be Dr. David Hayes. And I don't know if Dave is still here or not. We're talking about maybe trying to get him on the live and have some conversation. Correct, Gaze is how that's spelled. And of course, big thanks to the moderator team, the best moderator team on the Tickety Talk. Cheyenne, Vanetta PT, John Williams J, and Travis. And we've got 5 minutes left for final thoughts. Any new word on the F-16 use and armaments? So Magical, there is scuttlebutt. There are rumors. There is innuendo. But nothing solid. It is not impossible that the Su-34 shot down in Kursk was shot down by an F-16. We don't know. But it is not impossible, and that rumor is going around. I didn't mention it before because it is just a rumor. But since you brought it up, it's worth mentioning. Kirsch Bridge is still standing barely, which is why I think it's not the priority. But I trust the Ukrainians to take it down when it is the most propitious time. Has UA opened any new dollar stores in the new section of Ukraine? My understanding is that they went with Dollar Tree, not the dollar store, because of the kitchen aisle. Hey, Samso. Hey, Chef Deb. I'm glad somebody liked that. Oh, that was the best I had in 30 seconds. Hey, David Keller. Ukraine does what we least expect, and that is why they are winning. HIMARS and Kursk will make life miserable for Russian reinforcements. From your lips to God's ear, Bobby, but it sure would be nice if they could use those ATACMs and Storm Shadows, boy. So you guys know Vanetta Larrett has our Google Doc share where you can get email message templates to Congress, the Senate, and the White House urging them to do just that. Untie Ukraine's hands. Untie Ukraine's hands. So now when your live goes an hour, they put up this stupid puzzle piece you have to fit in order to keep it going. I guess too many people put their lives on when they're just sleeping, which I don't even understand that. Guys, my Patreon reached a high point of $1,400 a month. I was bringing in $1,400 a month on the Patreon, and that gave me a very stable income. That has fallen. And so if there is anybody out there that can join the Patreon, I sure would appreciate it. Check out the Patreon, see the subscription levels. Do not sign up on your iOS device. They're taking 30% now. So do not use an iOS device to sign up to Patreon. Do you think the Patriots are moved closer up now? Well, Walter, we believe that 2 additional Patriot systems have been moved into the country. So we believe there are now definitely 4, possibly 5 Patriots in the country. It seems unlikely that one of those wouldn't be moved to support the Kursk offensive, but we don't have any confirmation of that. There's no confirmation of that. You only have iOS, that's fine. Just don't use Apple Pay. Just use your browser, go to patreon.com, sign up, and give them a credit card, right? Just don't use Apple Pay, whatever you do. Because then 30% of your donation goes to Apple for no reason. For no reason. Is Russia using glide bombs in Kursk? Yes, Bobby. Now, look, we've talked about this. The Russians are, when it comes to strategy, the Russians are a one-trick pony. Meat grinder, scorched earth, level everything. From Chechnya to Syria to Ukraine. That has been all that the Russian army has been capable of doing. Now, they're facing an enemy on their own territory. Are they going to do it to their own cities? Yes, it appears that they are. And so the damage that we're seeing to these Russian cities is not, for the most part, being caused by the Ukrainians. It's being caused by Russian aviation bombs running sorties against their own country, their own towns, their own cities, their own people. It's just using Apple Pay, PT. If you use Apple Pay, is my understanding, that's where they're fucking you. Fucking me. Fucking all of us. It's a complete robbery, Walter, yes. Hey, Nigeria. How you doing, mannequin? PayPal is great. I appreciate it. Again, if You want a live sponsorship, if you PayPal the Zampotech guys for their Humvee fundraiser, not only are you entered in I think the 4 top donators will receive these awesome shell casings from Russian helicopters that have been turned into a nice kind of household decor, the kind of thing you might pick up at Bed Bath and Beyond. But it's made out of a helicopter shell. Really interesting. And so if you donate to the Zampotech Humvee Restoration Fund, send me the receipt. If it's more than $50, I will give you a live sponsorship here. I don't do a lot of fundraising. I don't expect to get involved in fundraising, guys, but the Zampotech guys have a project that is necessary and close to completion. And I would like to help put them over the top. Thank you, Nightshade. What are your thoughts about what's going to happen in the next 6 months? In the next 6 months, we'll see the defeat of Russia. In the next 6 months, I believe we are likely to see the defeat and capitulation of Moscow. Maybe not 6 months, maybe 8. 6 to 8. Write it down. Bust my ass when I'm wrong. My email address is in my bio. So, Paul, if you want to send me those t-shirt designs, or if anybody wants to send me their receipt for a donation to Zampotech, just grab the email address right out of the info, out of the bio there. Who do I think poisoned the German RAF base? Some criminal who was hired by the FSB. Now, this is just my opinion. This is not a fact. But if I were to guess who was behind sabotaging the German bases, I would bet that it was a Russian operation contracted by the FSB that used a criminal element either from Belarus, Poland, or Russia, but Poland, Belarus, Ukraine, could be a Ukrainian, right? There's lots of Ukrainians on Russia's side. Make no mistake. This country is divided, but it's not divided in half. The Russians, the Ukrainians sympathetic to Russia are maybe 15% of the population, maybe. It's like the MAGA crowd. So I think we're going to find out, Andrew, that the Russians hired somebody to do it. And likely it's the person that they've already got in custody. Paul is saying that the Germans believe it was Russia. Are the Germans saying that now? If Finland and Georgia would get their land back and potential breakaways get out now. I don't think so, David. I think that process is going to be an extended process over the next, really starting probably in about 36 months, and then potentially taking as many as 120 months. You don't, an empire that has stood for 800 years doesn't fall apart overnight. Think about how long it took. It took the USSR about 36 months from the fall of the Berlin Wall to its final collapse. And we're going to see something similar play out with the Russian Federation, I believe. The pundits say no. The experts say that I'm wrong. And I probably am. I get everything wrong, right? I mean, I don't know why any of you listen to me. I get everything wrong. But I just can't imagine any other world except a world without Russia after this. Okay, how are we on time? Oh gosh, it's 1:07. Okay. I don't think so, Bobby. I don't think Russia can survive this. I really don't. And the economic collapse is coming now. The ruble is starting to buckle under this invasion pressure. And the currency and price controls that are in place in the state structured economy over there, it's not going to last. It's not going to last. Domanican, I am. I thought you knew that. Hey, Damood. The collapse is coming from within. Yes, they are. Good night, Jessica. So, guys, it is past. What would you rather have, DJT stock or rubles? Holy shit. That's like, what would you rather have? Prostate cancer or brain cancer? I mean, I don't know where the DJT stock is right now, but if somebody were giving me something, I'd probably take the Truth Social stock and then sell it on an uptick. Thanks, Robbo. Thanks, Joe. Appreciate it. Good night, Walter. Good night, Jackson. All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, I really appreciate it. Hey, G2, thank you. Right, plague or cholera. Right, that's the choice. Rubles or DJT stock. Thanks a lot, everybody. I really appreciate it. Thanks for sticking around and talking to me about Ukraine. And I will see everybody tomorrow. Make it a great day.